Likewise, thank you. It's our pleasure to having you today. And you look shining with the red jacket. I know it is one of your favorite color. So you been on vacation, you come fresh for us, right?
Exactly. Full of new inspiration, new perspectives. Very excited to share.
Likewise. So, Christine, today I want to discuss with you more about the website and our platform, especially if I am a consultant or coach, I have my own business. This is not necessarily also if I have a business, if I have my own personal a website or a LinkedIn. So we came across a lot of advice. This formula will work. Do this and that, and you will get this with more commitment and more promises. So I think in order to do that, especially I came from a clinical background. This is not my expertise. So let's give this for who is SME in that area. So you are from the marketing and you have managing different campaigns. So I thought it's good to come here and try to hear from you from your perspective and try to find a way how we can tailor it and reflect it in our healthcare sectors.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I feel like because there's so much care that goes on with this industry specifically as well, like it makes sense that you're at capacity. It's not an area that you need to dabble in, day out. You have much more important things to do to take care of patients and other people. But being mindful of these tips today, hopefully it helps get a lot more impact based on the efforts and time that you do have available.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. So I'm very excited to start and let's get started with those questions. So now, what happened? Uh, I create, and this is when I say I try to reflect the most common question and where I get those from feedback from my client or from my colleague. So we created the logo, and we bought the logo, and then after that realize no, it's the logo is not a good or it's not the only the thing I need to consider. So if you can just give me uh, common things I need to consider when I want to publish or host my website.
Yeah, there's a few things. So I think to that credibility piece is such a big part of why having a website can be so compelling. It's like that home on the internet for you that people can land on. They find the information that they need with ease, ideally, so that they can take that next step or action with you, ideally. And so keeping that in mind, a few things. So one of them being there's so many different platforms out there to begin with. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. First of
Mm,
all, but also that figure out a platform. You can try out different trials as well for free at the beginning, especially before you invest any money into it. I always like to tell my clients, but also I always like to say the best platform is the one that you actually use. And so test things out, find what one works best for you before you put any money down. And then the second piece being the domain name, too. That's going to help a lot with your credibility piece, too. So, for example, whether it's your name or you have a business name or organization that you're running off of, have that really easily to type in, reduce any sort of typos or chances for errors in a way when people are navigating to find you. I think will be another big thing. You can usually buy that through your website provider really easily and keep everything in one place for organization and ease, or you can buy it through a third party like GoDaddy, Namecheap, some additional platforms like that. And then the third piece as well is the content that you actually have on the website. So, what are the things that being mindful of perhaps some frequently asked questions that you get a lot of from patients, organizations that reach out to you, making it really easy for people to find that ultimately. But perhaps what I see a lot of common things are around maybe not having a clear ask or service call out in a way. So, really use the language if you have this available through market research, even or conversations with the people of leads that you've had. Be really intentional of incorporating that language that they're already naturally using, which I know we might get more into today, but using that language that they're using into the content that you have for your website. This could go also for social media captions, etc. from there, any messaging really. But this way, being really clear of the services or products that you offer, so people know where and how to access you. A few other areas that I do notice from the website side of things too is maybe a lack of like social proof. I think oftentimes, especially when we are so human centric in this industry of healthcare, is that we always want to just like have our work speak for itself. But oftentimes, as the viewer of your website, you really want to make sure that you have that social proof validation, perhaps, or assurance from other people outside of you preaching your work all the time, that perhaps there's testimonials or videos or something that really humanizes it a little bit further, that people have vetted you as a whole. And then also, especially if people are working with you directly, I always encourage you to have at least one, if not more, like professional photos, or as clean and clear, like resolution quality as possible, because they're going to be working with you one on one. You really, again, want to humanize that experience of who you are, instead of connecting with a stranger, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You throw a lot of good ideas and recommendation to be considered. So one of the things here, I struggle myself with it. So to be on the consulting firm, or to be on in the industry where you need to prove yourself with your certificate, with your experience, with your knowledge. So the hard things to make sure I need to give the intention that I am SME and I know
Mhm.
exactly what I'm doing. And the same time is not texty and rich text, and also without jargon or technical terminology. So this is the challenge which I have. So from your advice, how we can make this balance?
Yeah, especially I often like to say that what comes so natural to you is often mind blowing to other people, or it's just like so magical they can't even fathom it sometimes, right? So when we're stuck in that world of things, again, I really like to be mindful and intentional of listening to what people have already said, or the vocabulary that they're using, because same thing for me in my industry too with design. Like, people may not always have the right vocabulary of, like, say they want to use the word bold, we may not be on the same page about it, right? Of what that means to reference. So being able to use the vocabulary that they're already using, it helps bridge the gap of understanding ultimately of what they're using, but then also as another level above, to tap into SEO of like keywords that they're likely already typing into Google, trying to find a solution that you probably offer already. And so, a few ways that you can do it more tangibly is around the about page, even. I think this is where that emotional connection and trust really does build quite well, especially for content on your website. So, even incorporating things like your values, or like even the tone that you write it in as well, if you want it a little bit more like heartfelt or casual in a way, less like stoic and
Mm.
sophisticated, where it kind of encourages people to just lean in a little bit more and get to know you. I think these are ways that you can really help to connect and build that sense of trust. But then also thinking about other just very subtle things too, right? That help boost that trust and credibility, like even what we call like a logo wall of like all the accreditations or accolades, awards, highlights, mentions that you might want to have on even that about page. It just gives like a very nice visual interest in it, but also very easily passively scrollable if people are very quickly looking at things and just want to know quick things about you, or being able to access that information to feel that sense of connection.
Which is good. So if I want to see what is the best practice on the industry, and to try not to copy but at least to be
Mhm.
aspire with good example and website, and this is will help me to build my own, from where I can go, this is the good website, not because I like it, because it is a good website.
Right. I mean, I always like to see what's going on in the industry, but where I actually find a lot of inspiration is people totally outside of the industry, in a sense, because I think it gives a sense of different perspective, seeing how things flow differently as well. Because I find, especially with a lot of medical websites out there, they can feel really stale sometimes as well, that you might have come across in the past, or they all start to kind of look the same. Right. And so we don't want to necessarily, we want to take some of the things perhaps that the competitors are using really well. So perhaps if it's like different systems or tools in place that are built specifically for booking clinical appointments, let's say, and they do a really robust job at it, great. Like, let's take that resource and utilize this in our own journey and method of it, and workflow. But then yeah, I really like to look at, things that have nothing to do with that industry that you're in, because
Mhm.
I find oftentimes it gives me even more fresh perspective, but it's
Yeah.
almost like a pattern interrupt in a way, right? So whenever somebody has come across maybe a not so great um, other website, for example, then it's just like really refreshing to be able to come across your own.
hmm So, from your experience, and because you work with a lot of clients, you try to help them to build their own website. So, if you give me a lot of good idea to have and features within the website. One of the example, FAQ. So, one thing, if you want to mention only one things, it is a must to have in any website, we cannot overlook. And you see a lot of healthcare provider or came from the healthcare industry, they keep overlook this feature. What this features will be?
I would say, especially like, okay, so I want to preface that you are paying for your website. So you should have a return on investment with it. So you're paying for the platform itself, you're paying for the hosting, and potentially other features included in it. So I want your website to make you money ultimately, or get to that next step or action. So I think what I see most oftentimes that's missing is like a very clear call to action. So that could be in many different forms, I should say, too. But getting really clear of what it is that you want your users to go through is going to be probably the most helpful thing. So whether it's like you actually use more very clear call to action buttons in places to encourage like traffic around different pages on your website, or especially for medical, I think being able to have a very simple, easy to use booking integration in there so that people can book their appointments with ease and not have to try to call the office to try to arrange their appointments and get no one at the other end.
Mm,
I think is a problem that comes up time and time again. I know for myself especially as well. So make things just really simple and clear.
yeah, I agree with that. So, one of the things I want to uh, ask you about the website and the content. We know when we started building any website, we take a long time designing, crafting, and make sure this is the right things to do, and we try to manage the content. Then we do nothing updating our content. We kept our website and we keep our website as is. So, how frequent we need to visit our content and update this?
I like to definitely do it at least annually, I should say, because likely a lot has evolved or changed since who you were or your business was a year ago. So I would say minimum once a year. I like to go in at least like every quarter as well, because I think again a lot of things change and evolve, and you want to be able to maintain and optimize as much as possible to be proactive about what you want it to do too. So usually in these like quarterly reviews, even I like to get into the habit of things or a routine, perhaps, or structure that you want to maintain things with. So even if it's like checking all your buttons that they're linking to the right places, nothing's broken, or if you have press on there, let's say that it goes to the right link, that it still exists, or if you have a blog as well of like educational resources or products, even like digital products or services, making sure that those things are updated accordingly, or if you've updated new pricing, for example, as well, or even different like case studies or testimonials to keep things fresh. That's not only good for SEO as well for you for search engine optimization, for people to for Google to index you higher, but also it just like encourages people to come back because there are new things already on there for you too, even if they've come in the past.
Uh, Typically, if there is any KPI for this or in the industry, I'm not aware. What is the ultimate or time for any prospective client when they get into the website until they go for checkout?
Yeah. Oh, this is a tough one because I think there's no cookie cutter answer, unfortunately, to not sugarcoat it, right? I think that everybody's sales journey in that way or customer journey is going to be so different depending on if you have, like, let's say, a $10 digital product, or you have a like 4 or 5 figure services package is going to be very different in that way. But I often like to remind people that it takes multiple touch points in order to actually encourage people to take that next step. I think nowadays it's like they had initially said in the past, it takes about 7 to 8 touch points to encourage people to take that next action. So even if you feel like you're getting some website creepers or lurkers that haven't quite done the thing yet or checked
Mm.
out as a conversion, oftentimes they've probably either come back or they just need a little bit more warmth. So that's why I like to make things really simple and digestible content wise, or making the buttons really clear, or the booking appointment really easy, because those are each of the multiple steps or touch points that they're going to need to go through in order to find the information that they need to be confident and trusted in making that decision to either buy that $10 product or that 4 or 5 figure like service package, for example, right? So the more that we can kind of keep them more bite sized as possible, I find they get to that end place or conversion much faster.
So in coaching and in consulting, most probably the services will be high tickets, and this is number needs uh, many time to think as a prospective client. Is this is first of all what I need, and this is the right person. So how I can make in my own website, I can simplify it, the language in the same time without losing my credibility as a good coach to have this services, because here my prospective customer or a client, they are not a patient, they will
Mhm.
be high professional
Yep.
profile, high performance, doctor, physician, they
Mhm.
will very educated. So how I can convince them with very simplified language?
Yeah. So understanding who that is very clearly, like that customer avatar, I think is so helpful. Not only from like a pain, you hear a lot about pain points and challenges that they may be experiencing, right? To promote that sense of understanding per se, in the language and positioning of why they need it. But then also on the other side of it, I think understanding what motivation is really important to them, because oftentimes we feel like, especially with services and consulting, we want to put the whole kitchen sink out there, that we think the more features, the better mentality. But oftentimes, if we do more market research, perhaps they only really, what's most important to them is only 1 to 2 key things out of this
Mm.
whole list. So I think being able to get really clear of what people are motivated by, what is the result that they actually want to achieve by being able to work with somebody like you, for example, that will help make things concise in terms of the messaging. But then also, I like to have kind of a good range of services. So more of like an entry level, lower ticket typically offer that people can kind of ease into if they are thinking about working together, but just want to dip their toes in a little bit first. And then that mid tier one typically will probably sell the most because it is in the middle, but then also have that higher ticket to move people through in their journey of working with you, but is a little bit longer of a sales cycle typically in that marketing journey. But also, I think to say that having a few different things to help qualify these leads will be really helpful, not only for you, but for them as well, to make sure that it's an aligned fit, that you're able to help these type of people. um, and so a few different ways you could have this is through those testimonials and social proof that we talked about, having different case studies perhaps, or that logo wall of accreditation, so that you are putting your best foot forward, but very simply and easily. But then also another way that I found has helped a lot, and a lot of different clients, is in your intake questionnaire. So whether that's through your booking system for scheduling a call, or through a contact form if people are interested to work with you, then I like to add additional questions if you're able to as well. So this way you put in, for example, like even the budget of what they're able to work within, or what specific thing they want to work on with you, or what packages they're actually interested in. So again, it just helps keep the focus really intentional in that way, so that it is very relevant for them, and have helped them think through already that this is like a paid service that they are committing to. There's something of an investment, whether it's time, energy, or financially, that they are investing in to work with you. But this way, you've helped pre-qualify a lot of that, so that when you get to that actual conversation, it's much like more seamless to be able to.
Yeah, so speaking on the budget and the price
Mhm.
list, is it good to practice to have this already mentioned in my website? What is my hourly rate, for example, if I am a consultant or I am a coach? This is will increase my traffic and my outreach, or this is will be a good idea. Maybe they will be afraid from the numbers.
Yeah, it's all preference, I would say, and comfortability in a lot of ways. I think depending on your values as well, right? Like for me, transparency is one of the biggest values that I have in my business too. And so, with that, like a way that I incorporate that into my own website is through making the decision to put pricing on there, even if it's like a starting at or a range, for example, as well. But I find typically, even you as a customer, anywhere you go, oftentimes the biggest questions you have is like, who is it that you would be working with? Like, do I like this person? Do I trust this person? But beyond that, like, how long is it going to take for me to commit to something like this? Like, what are the expectations around that? How much do I need to pay? Um, are typically the second other questions that people are asking themselves. So I find it just helps again, like pre qualify people so that you're getting people really primed and ready of setting those expectations because oftentimes where a lot of that trust often loses is or is lost rather is between their expectations not being met with the
Mm.
reality or the outcome.
So this is based on my preferences as a host owner or my website owner. So personally, you have this already clear mentioned there, your price from starting until the high ticket, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. And do you see any difference? Is this is help you
Mm,
uh, with any sort of equality? Maybe as you mentioned, pre-qualified. At least you know clearly who is your niche and who is your persona, or maybe get more hit. How it's helped you having the
yeah.
price there?
I think similarly to what you had described too, like I know that a lot of my clients, they're maxed out at capacity. They really value efficiency. So being able to have that information, like lifestyle wise, it just makes their decision a lot faster as well, right? Because they have all the information that they need. But that's why I think it's really important for people to get very clear of who their customer avatar, client avatar is, because maybe people have a little bit more capacity or patience or fill in the blank trait in there. And maybe they don't necessarily need to know that right away, but they actually value being able to talk to somebody right away versus having the information on timing or pricing.
Mm. One of the hard discussion every time it's happened, and I believe your customer they share this a lot with you, is what is good for me as a situation A to start with low price, then increase my price.
Mm.
Okay, but here they will maybe thought I am not good enough to their services, or put my actual price which I targeted, and then they will see me I am very expensive and they will not work for me.
I think it can be scary, right? Like anyone who, first of all, has a business or is a consultant putting themselves out there, it takes a lot of courage, first of all, to put yourself out there. So realize that first. I think a lot of pricing has to do with confidence as well, right? So the more comfortable and confident we can feel with the worth that we are delivering, beyond the numbers of what the actual price is, I think will allow you to show up in a different way, to pitch yourself a different way, to attract opportunities in a different way as well. But in terms of like just the financial output itself, I think work on the mindset and confidence will help make the world of difference in many ways for you. But also, I think that being able to, like, I think having a time period as well is really helpful. So this way, if you're really just starting out and this is completely new for you, or you've had a change in career perhaps as well, then perhaps you want to do like a more of a beta phase of things, but maybe
Mm,
give yourself again a time frame. So whether it's like the next month, I want to set a goal for booking, let's say, three of this particular product or package at this price, but everything else beyond that for this service is going to be my like upgraded rate essentially, or my
mm, mm, mm.
soon to be normal rate. So this way it gives a bit of urgency as well for people to take advantage of trying this out if you really have wanted to work together before. Or I'm always the biggest believer of adding value versus discounting things as well. So even I recently launched a poll on my LinkedIn, for example, of wanting to add value to a promo that I have coming up too. Gave them 2 to 3 options to vote on. So again, I'm getting direct feedback from market research, specifically from my audience and community of potential clients. But this way, leaning into what they actually want. So, would it be more valuable for them to have XYZ like bonus instead of discounting it? And myself resenting doing the product or service afterwards, it doesn't necessarily feel great and it's not sustainable in that way.
You take me for another area right now with this. I am from the same fan of you. I believe to added value more important, and one of the those strategic on acquiring a new client, sometimes to targeting them or approaching them through a different area. So if someone want to add value for he is or she is, but in the same time later on they found they know their value, but he didn't get the lead which is he or she is
Mhm.
looking for. So what is the best, or not best, what is your recommendation to targeting and acquire a new a new client? Is go for the inbox and send hi? Have you ever then put my proposal there? Is this is a good idea to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, I think, options, which is the difficult thing and the beautiful thing about it, right? I think that it can be very overwhelming, but also there's a lot of potential in it. So understanding that, I think being able to pour into the people who have either shown up and really championed you, I think that being able to, again, mindset is such a big piece of it that I continue to learn every single day as well. That you often hear this a lot of times about rejection is just redirection in many ways, but taking things not personally, that a no now doesn't mean no forever also, right? Sometimes if they say no, they may be one of your biggest champions to refer people to you or to
Mm,
introduce you to other folks as well who may be even a better fit, to be honest, as well. But we just don't want to there's so many factors that there's so much in life going on that maybe it's not personal, it's not a no to you or the value that you have to share, but what have you, it's a no for them at the moment. So I just like to nurture as well, and if they are open for feedback, I often like to ask as well. So whether it's is it the timing, is it the pricing, because then there's potential other options that or solutions that you could offer them. So if it's like a pricing issue, let's say for somebody, perhaps you want to offer payment plans in place to help with cash flow, for example. Or perhaps you move things out timeline wise to reflect that payout schedule. Or maybe if it is a timing thing, ask them
mm.
kindly, clearly, if like, do you mind if I check back in with you at the end of the summer or something specific, right? This way you get their consent, but also have something of a dedicated next step together that you've mutually agreed upon as well to keep in touch with, and still understand and notice that it's important to them. It's just a timing, financial, or what have you issue.
Now with ChatGPT, everyone know what is the tip and take to take and consideration in order to build their own branding or personal branding. So assuming someone take the right things to do as a promote and position himself into the market in the right way. Now, as you mentioned, a lot of the messages and language, be authentic, take a headshot as a professional, be personal with them, humanity. All those now, everyone they are doing that the same things. So how I can outstand on this crowded market right now and present myself, I am unique because some of those marketing messages or slogan is become hitting on the nerve, like, do you want to have 6 figures, 7 figures, work with me and do that 1 2 3, do whatever you learned in the past is wrong. So some of the messages now become cliche. So
Yeah.
how I can be outstanding with this crowded, so the competition is too high.
I think it's very easy for us to assume things. So for me, I always like going back to the market research is like my no fail strategy every single time, because then wherever possible anyways, if you can get that direct feedback or language and messaging already, it's not like you're copying it, but rather sharing that understanding, right? You like really intimately understand the experiences that your clients are having ultimately too. So I like to incorporate even different types of content as well online, through the website or social media, even that like myth bust a little bit or address like misconceptions perhaps that you have seen. Um, even if you wanted to, like, oftentimes, the reality is that like controversial content does well in that sense. So even if you wanted to call out, have you seen all those posts promising you 6 to 7 figure,
Mm. So
you know,
reverse engineering technique for my benefit.
exactly. So again, it's like really that pattern interrupt to call things out and like just say the elephant in the room in a
Mm.
way. And why is your framework, your process, your approach, the way that you do things is different to that, or being able to shed a light in many ways, right? Because sometimes we just either take it verbatim or we ignore it completely as well. And so just being mindful to be able to have a strong opinion on things, I think will really help strengthen your personal or business brand as a whole.
So to complete this flow and maintain my personal brand, how is telling or storytelling as a solopreneur or a
Mm.
founder, this will help me to build the trust with my prospective client?
You see this so oftentimes now, even, as soon as you say Facebook, for example, you immediately likely have thought of Mark Zuckerberg, for example, right? Or Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and the list goes on from there. But what I feel like a lot of good brands are doing nowadays is that they have positioned their either founders a lot of times, or even if there are really great team members, especially that are part of the village of the business in a way.
Mm.
It really helps to outline their expertise, or their founder story can be really compelling as well. So, again, really creating that emotional connection. You feel much more like somebody, you want to tune in on a more regular basis, you care like about what
Mm.
they're doing, or perhaps you align on the values that they have associated with how they run their business, right? So all these things, I think it just truly, in the world of AI and all these bots out there now, people are craving that sense of connection more than ever, I truly believe. And being able to have this sense of empathy, understanding, and values aligned goes such a long way.
And is this required to be on the front of the cam and telling my story, or there's another form to do that?
I mean, I've had other clients as well where, for example, like either their social media manager or whoever will create content about the founder, for example, or engage like their founder as well. So I think it's not necessarily, if you are maxed out at capacity, which I totally can understand and respect as another fellow founder, then, that's fine too. But I think being able to have those humanized touch points goes such a long way.
If I don't have business, but I am a doctor or I am a nurse or pharmacist, whatever you call it, and I am now in the leadership position, how urgent for me to consider building my personal brand or building my digital identity, even if I don't have my own website, to have a LinkedIn? There is a need right now with the AI era to be present there, or I don't have any business. Why to be there?
I think it depends on what your long term aspirations are. If it's like just to be in practice with people, in Canada here anyways, like, I already know that all those doctors out there, they likely majority of you are maxed out at capacity, right? So there's not a lot of bandwidth. So I often like to say, especially in the world of content and presence out there, that you hear consistency as that buzzword so oftentimes, but it's almost more so an equation of what does your capacity look like in the season of your life and business to honor. Because I rather you post, like, let's just even say once a month on LinkedIn, and do that consistently on a regular basis of, again, setting expectations for people of when they can tune back to things for updates from you, versus going, let's say, 7 days straight, multiple times a day,
Mhm.
and then you fall off the wagon for 3 months, right? Then that trust is really lost from there as well. I think if you have aspirations, for example, or goals that you want to maybe do more consulting or speaking outside of your practice at the moment, then I do think and encourage you to spend more time, even if it is nurturing things on LinkedIn. A lot of people sometimes don't even have websites nowadays, but I do think it is still a really compelling piece of your marketing funnel, if you do have those resources available to do so, not just financially, but the time to build it out as well to consider. But yeah, I would say there's definitely a lot of benefits in order to just have these platforms because it builds relationships ultimately.
And right now, we can see those who is an aspiring physician and surgeon and nurses are already, they are with Gen Z. They
Mm,
are in every platform. They do everything there. But till now, they are the majority of them. They are not in the LinkedIn, and they underrated the LinkedIn for them. So from perspective, they have the time, they have the energy, and they have the creativity to do a content. So what is your advice for them?
I often like to say that you don't need to be everywhere in order to be successful. Get really clear again, come back to that client avatar of who is it that you are serving, so that we can support them the best. Where are they actually hanging out online, especially? Or perhaps they're not even online, right? Because I've had other clients, for example, where perhaps their ideal client is like at a community center or their local farmers market every Saturday,
Mm.
but they are going to be there and showing up consistently, right? So I often just encourage people to get really clear of where makes the most sense, because you pour so much time and energy into creating content. You want it to land effectively ultimately for the right people. But at the same time, if you are creating already, I often like to encourage people as well to repurpose content. So if you're creating as your primary platform for, let's just say, Facebook, for example, anyways, post the exact same thing on LinkedIn just to have a presence in order to see how things are going as you're building that habit and structure and process into place. But then as you start to notice more results and like potential for how results could go moving forward, if you were to nurture a lot further, then that's where you can adjust the messaging a lot further based on the specific platform.
And based on what you said, and you keep saying market
Mm,
research, research on all those input or those, let's say, the ingredient to put in the recipe, I need to be aware what is the market needs and what they want. So for someone as a solopreneur came from clinical background, I don't have team to do for me the researching. And if I want to go and partner with the market research agency, they
mm.
are very pricey. So for something on nutshell, I need to understand who I am, what I'm doing, what is the best way to approaching my niche. So what is your advice?
Yeah, it's really easy to assume. So, like, let's do better in that way. I think we don't always necessarily have access to these people either, right? So I hear you when you say that too. So I think there are a few different ways that you could go about it. So even if it is like a poll or survey, I think is one way to potentially have access to that, putting it in different groups or communities out there that are already pre-established of the like people that you would want to access in a way, could be really helpful to get that information if you don't have that direct access. Or perhaps you want to be able, if you do have access to them, whether you want to do that one-on-one interviews or group focus kind of groups as well, those are available too. But oftentimes, even just start with like five, I would say, touch points or interviews, getting answers in a sense, because oftentimes after you've done maybe like 5 to 10, let's say, even, typically there is some sort of pattern, trend, inkling that comes up oftentimes, that then you can get more specific and go more in depth as to the answers that people are providing. But I would say the biggest thing when conducting market research is also being mindful of having it open answered type question, open ended questions rather, because this way it allows people to go off on tangents that you may not necessarily always have thought of quite so that you can understand their decision making process a little bit further, when they are being motivated to work with somebody like you.
If I want, I can sit with the five as you advise
Mm.
and try to find what is the theme overall from this and build over that. But when it's coming for what is the best price for my services, it's this is very hard to do that.
Yeah.
And even though if I sit with those five, for sure, maybe I will not take the right number. So how I can make sure there is a way to see what is on the benchmark on the market, and also it's value based for those prices. So how I can approach the data like this, and I don't have budget to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few different ways. So, I would say that I come back to there's an article by Forbes actually that I keep coming back to years and years later, even. It's all about happy pricing, is what they refer to it
Mm,
as. And so, it's something that really resonates with me, and hopefully some people watching this as well, that you don't want to be resentful of the work that you do. So many of us are already overworked. We're already like resentful of doing the thing because we don't feel like it's worth it, right? Or that we're worth so much more. And so to not get into that trap of things as well, I want to set you up for success. So the whole concept of this happy pricing, especially with Forbes, is around yeah, setting it at a price that you feel good ultimately about putting out there, so that if you were to do the work or deliver the service or product, that you would feel happy about it ultimately, and that your customers and clients would feel happy as a result too. So understanding that's going to be your baseline of things, because we all got bills to pay at the end of the day too. But you can also look at competitor research online, even if that's through their website, and seeing how much they roughly
mm.
price it as. You can kind of set your
If
own.
they include their number there and their
Right.
prices.
Yeah, exactly. Then you can kind of like figure out a range at
Yeah.
least of what typically would be charged for something like this based on the deliverables that they are sharing. Or perhaps as well, if you go in and again, through that market research, if you were to ask one of the open ended questions of like, if I were to deliver XYZ consulting strategy service, how much do you think that this something like this would be worth to you? And then
Mhm.
that way kind of taking the median rate based on what people have shared with you as your baseline again. And then I often just encourage you to sit with it. If you feel like, let's just say it's $1,000 for, I don't know, a specific session, sit with it for a little bit and see, does this feel good to you? Or do you feel like, again, you want to maybe test it out at this beta phase, that the first three people, I'm going to price it at 1,000, let's say. And then after doing the work, especially if you're like, actually, it was a lot less work than what I had expected to put in. Maybe I want to reduce the rate to make it much more like as a low ticket
Mm.
entry package, and then start to develop medium and higher ticket ones from here. Or perhaps you're like, wow, that was a lot more work than I had imagined. It's needs to go higher in terms of the
Mm.
pricing, but this way you can adjust it from there. Know that it's not a set in stone.
Yeah, especially in the beginning, it's very hard to know what is the exact number and how long will take for you to do something if you are new on this domain and you have shifting your career. So you need to
Mm,
build this with the experience. And this is happening a lot with the companies where they put the proposal for a project. They thought this is the amount of hours they need. Then most of the time they do more, and this take a lesson for the next proposal to do with
yeah.
their project.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think also, especially at the beginning, if there is a lot of uncertainty of the deliverables or the process in place, that add in the buffer required in your pricing too, right? Because oftentimes there's just so many things that come up, or maybe a lot more emails that you didn't expect to reply to as a result. But all that like admin, all of your software, like even price pay, like rates that you
What's
pay.
look that buffer? 50%?
I wouldn't say maybe that much, but just like yeah, enough that you feel good about. Usually I like to just at least be mindful of like, depending on how much work I guess you're
Ah,
anticipating, but like maybe 10% margin at least, just to cover like logistics, admin type communications that come up.
makes sense. 10 is a reasonable number, especially with those inflation and nowadays. So we speak about the healthcare sectors and the healthcare provider. Most of them they are busy, and they don't have time to be consistent and to build that. And one of the advice you put them to be consistent, to schedule it, and to have it in monthly basis. Now, from my honest observation, I see there is people they don't have time to do that, and there is people they live on the social media. They post 3 4 5 6 7 8 times per day. So what is the right way? Not posting, or posting many time on the end of the day?
I just had a conversation with one of my clients today about this actually, which is funny enough. But we were talking about two different pillars to focus on, right? So one of them being that you want to retain and keep the people who are in your audience happy, and like top of mind. And then the other side of it being like proactive, doing outreach, engaging with new people, essentially. So the acquisition of
Mm.
new people in your funnel, if you will, or your community. But both take time, right? So being able again to come back to capacity of what do you have time for? Because I rather you come out with quality, and
Mm.
setting that standard for yourself across it, because those first impressions make such a difference, right? Whether they land on your website or they find you on LinkedIn and are like, oh, this hasn't been updated for the last 5 years, then they feel like they don't know you anymore, or they
Mm.
don't know what to expect when they reach out to you, or if you will even reply for that matter, right? So I do think that putting your best foot forward makes a world of difference, but then also understanding that you want to build a healthy mix of marketing activities to both retain people and acquire new ones.
So what the side effect if I am put content on my platform, okay, but I am busy doing another and here I'm not looking as a physician, I'm looking as a one who is a consultant or coach looking to do a services and take those clients for more revenue and services. I put a post and then I came after 1 week, then realize there's a comment there. So I'm either to response or not to response. So how bad for the prospective client they put a comment on my post and I'm not engaging with them.
I think yeah, it comes back to expectation setting. I feel like at the end of the day, right? It seems so minute or little or subtle in that way, but I think this is how you teach people to expect how you respond as well, right? Because I don't take it lightly that people have taken the time to comment, or like, especially if it's very full, as well, or very specific. But at the same time, I understand we all have lives at the end of it too. So, when you get around to it, I would encourage you to comment back, even if it is a like on the comment, even if it is a thank you or something short. Perhaps you even want to save like branded, let's say, comments as well that you like to come back to on an ongoing basis. So you can use that in a few different use case scenarios. But oftentimes, I do think the ones that go a lot further long term are when you are nurturing and building these relationships. So do spend time like responding intentionally back to them when
Mm.
you do have capacity, whenever that is. Ideally, it is timely and whatnot, but if it is a week later, that's okay too.
Sounds good. So, from what we can see, everyone claim they know how to crack the algorithm for X or Y platform, and everyone, it's as you mentioned, it's need time in order to see the result. So it's not overnight you see the result. So, do I need to understand how the algorithm it's work and try to study it and follow it, or keep it simple, do what I do in the same time, consistent. That's it.
Yeah, I think I often like to split it up. Even you might have heard this around too, about like 80%, what's working, it's evergreen typically as well, or very timely perhaps too, that's relevant to what you offer in terms of your expertise. And then perhaps allocating about 20% of your content towards experimentation. So this way, again, you know that the retention is going to work really well on the things that 80% of the time, and then the 20%, you can find out new ways of engaging with people, because oftentimes you want to keep things fresh equally
Mm.
as much, because if you're feeling stale about your content, oftentimes the people viewing it may feel the same way as well. So this just allows you a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you're approaching things. But I would say too, just be mindful ultimately of how you're putting things out there, getting into a good habit or rhythm for you that you're going to be able to do it consistently as well.
Wonderful. So I would like to finish up with the last topics about the automation. Right
Hmm.
now, as you can see, it's very hectic. I need to have different platform, different user, different account to work together. and to take content from there, put it on the Canva, then take it from the Canva, go for the chat GPT, make sure
Yeah.
the message is correct. So, and sometime if you not following the right flow, that will need extra time on you. So with the new technology, having the automation and they are connected together, what you can advise us to do and how to do it in order to make it not very complicated, sophisticated, but at least it's simple to for early founder. They want to make sure they are present, they have content, and they also not overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, typically I find just getting into the habit is ultimately the hardest part. I think automations are great, but also being mindful not to lose that human touch at the end of the day too. People want to talk to you ultimately, likely. And so perhaps even if it's like that booking system that we talked about being a big pain point for a lot of people, perhaps you do want to integrate something that is native to your website platform that you're maybe already paying as a feature in your current plan, then try that out first, right? Use what you have available based on what you have currently. Otherwise, if you are ready to kind of look into alternatives as well, like I do recommend investing or trialing out, anyways, software that's really robust in your industry already. So even like JNAP, for example, right? They like have cracked the code when it comes to booking those things in there. Um, or Calendly, for example, even, but just making sure that you also go through that flow yourself to make sure that if you were a client booking this, that you get all the steps that you need and there's no hiccups along the way. I think is that biggest second part, to not only choose the tool itself, but to go through it yourself too, to see what that user experience is like.
Great. So if you want to give us only one advice for the healthcare sectors where they are caring about their prospective client as a coaches and consultant, what is the valuable advice you will give it for us?
I would say clarity and simplicity is very underrated. So, again, what is so second nature to you day in, day out is often mind blowing to others. So, like, use what you already have available at your disposal. Use the language that your patients or your clients are already using with you to incorporate that into your messaging, making the buttons or automations really clear and easy to work through, so that you get those people to the next call to action that you're encouraging them with. Will reap the benefits and the results on both ends.
Sounds great. So I will open the floor for the audience. If they have any questions, please feel free to type your question and we'll try to answer it. So I got here. I don't know from where it's came because we are in a three platform. So the question here: how I can measure the user experience on my website?
Yeah. Okay. I love this tool that I share with my website clients, especially. So it's hotjar.com. So HOTJAR.com. So you can, it's one of my favorites. So definitely try it out and let me know how it goes. But it's essentially heat mapping for your website. So in the trial version, the free one, they will give you, I believe, like one page or so that you can test out. So usually I encourage people to do the homepage because that's probably the one that's getting the most traffic on. But it heat maps essentially to show you where people actually clicking into, how far are they scrolling. It's very insightful in that way. So for example, the way that I use this information, however, to optimize a better user experience specifically for websites is then seeing if, for example, they're only scrolling to the top half of your homepage right now, and you have something really important on the bottom of it at the moment. I encourage you rearrange the order that things are in so that you give hero or spotlight to that information, or perhaps if people are clicking like an image or
Mm.
something text that is not actually clickable at the moment, it gives you opportunity to make it linkable to a page, to a resource, etc., from there that people are naturally already behaving on.
Yeah, and this is will be data driven, so you will see if it's one time or it is usually they came and try to click on the picture, which is not
Yes.
clickable. So give you more insight. So, Christine, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to having you. I'm looking forward to come back again with different topic, more onto website exactly, and find more advice from you. So we will prepare something in new, hopefully, within a couple months.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for everybody joining in today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.